Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling something
Yeah.
that's pretty relevant to, I think, everyone listening. We're diving into self-concept and
Mhm.
unlocking your potential. And,
Yeah.
there are a lot of sources out there that talk
Uh,
about this, and a lot of them just kind of say, know yourself. And it's like,
right.
okay, but then what? And this is a source that really stood out to me because it actually gives us
Yeah.
frameworks. It gives us things that we can actually put into action.
I agree. It's way more practical than just those general platitudes, you know? Like it actually digs into the how-to, which is refreshing.
Exactly. And it dives right in, talking about how our self-concept is formed, right? It's everything from our childhood, our experiences, the people we surround ourselves with,
Right.
even our own personalities. And it's like this constantly
Yeah.
evolving picture of me.
It's so dynamic, right? And that's what I find most fascinating. It's not like you figure it out once and you're done.
Right.
We're always changing, evolving, and our self-concept has to keep up.
Absolutely. And the source really highlights that, it's not a one-time thing. Static beings,
Yeah.
as we go through life, our self-concept adapts.
Probably.
And it's this interplay of like nature and nurture that kind of creates this picture of ourselves. Interesting.
Yeah. And you know what else I thought was interesting is how early on this awareness of me versus them begins.
Oh, yeah.
The source was mentioning like even toddlers start differentiating themselves. Like they're not just an extension of mom and dad anymore.
Oh, totally. Do you remember like those early friendships where you realized, oh,
Oh, for sure.
I don't actually like the same things.
Exactly. And I don't want to do everything you want to do.
Yes, exactly.
That's a huge part of self-discovery, realizing you're your own person.
It is. It is. And the source points out how important
Yeah.
positive reinforcement is at that age,
Yeah, totally.
For those unique traits.
Uh-huh.
They're more likely to grow up embracing those differences
Right.
in themselves and in other people. And I just...
It makes a world of difference, doesn't it?
Right. It does. It speaks volumes about like fostering that individuality early on. And it's not just like those really early years, This source goes on to talk about some really interesting psychological theories
Okay.
about what drives this self-concept, even from within.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings up Alfred Adler, who I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but
Yeah, vaguely familiar.
he was all about this idea
Yeah.
that we all have this like inherent drive to strive, to improve,
Right.
to like reach our full potential, which I thought was just a really...
It's a nice contrast, too, to someone like Freud, who,
Oh, totally.
was so focused on how the past shapes us.
Right.
Adler was all about this forward momentum,
Yes.
this striving,
It's like this internal engine, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like this desire to be better
Yeah.
and keep growing.
And you know what I thought was so interesting was how the source uses the example of a baby learning to walk.
Yeah.
They stumble, they fall, like countless times,
Right.
but they keep going. And it's like,
What?
what is driving that?
Exactly. It's like where does that come from?
It's this internal force
It really is.
to master this new skill
Yeah.
and overcome these limitations.
And it's so pure in a way, isn't it?
It is.
Like they're not worried about failing
Well,
or what anyone thinks.
You just keep going until they get it.
Exactly. And the source kind of, I think, argues that this drive disappear as we get older,
It continues to propel us forward, to learn new things, to connect with others, to contribute in our own ways. It's what pushes us to reach for those ambitious goals, even when they seem really daunting.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder then, because it's so like ingrained apparently.
Yeah.
Why does it feel so hard sometimes?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right. Like why do we
hit those roadblocks and
Yes.
those moments of self-doubt where we just want to give up,
Yes.
And I think that's where the source makes a really interesting point. It argues that modern society, in a lot of ways,
Okay.
can actually stifle this inherent drive
Interesting.
and lead to kind of feelings of inadequacy and fear of failure. Like we're constantly being bombarded with messages about not being good enough.
Yeah, thin enough, successful enough.
Totally.
And I think all of that comparison can really chip away at our self-belief.
It's true. And it's like, it makes you think about all the times we hold ourselves back because we're afraid of what other people are going to think, or we're afraid to put ourselves out there and take risks because what if we fail?
Or what if we're not
That's
good
fine.
enough? Exactly. Like
Yeah.
that fear is so paralyzing.
It is.
And this sort of digs into how that fear is often rooted in our self-concept, you know?
Interesting.
Like, if we see ourselves as being flawed or incapable in some fundamental way, we're going to be way less likely to pursue those big goals or even believe that we deserve them in the first place. It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow. Wow.
Which sounds kind of dire, I know, but yeah.
Here's the empowering part.
Okay.
The source doesn't just leave us there.
Okay, good.
It reminds us that we have the power to actually reshape our self-concept.
Okay.
It's not this fixed thing. By challenging those negative beliefs and focusing on our strengths, we can actually shift that internal narrative.
Yes.
Like rewiring those ingrained thought patterns, you know?
Totally. Like, we can choose to focus on, like, okay, what have I accomplished? What's unique about me?
Yes. Celebrate that.
Yes.
Embrace the journey of continuous growth.
It's so true. It's so true. And that kind of brings us to another concept that this source explores, which I thought was a really interesting kind of, I don't know, maybe leap. But it talks about Aristotle's law of cause and effect.
Okay.
Aristotle, now we're like really digging deep here. But how does this ancient philosophy, how does it apply to self-improvement?
Right. It might seem, I don't know, a little out there, but it's actually pretty straightforward when you think about it.
Yeah.
The sort of points out that everything that happens, both internally, like within us, and externally, in the world around us, it all happens for a reason. It all happens for a reason. It's a result of some cause.
Okay.
So if we want different outcomes in our lives, more happiness, more success, whatever it might be, we have to understand the causes that lead to those things.
So it's like a formula almost for self-improvement. Like, you input the right causes, you get the results you want.
Exactly. Specifically talks about Brian Tracy's interpretation of this law. And he emphasizes that our thoughts, our beliefs, those are major players in this equation.
Oh, interesting.
Like, Tracy argues that our thoughts are incredibly powerful. They're not just these fleeting things, they directly impact our actions we see in our lives.
Wow.
So if we're constantly, feeding ourselves this negative self-talk, it's no wonder that we might struggle to achieve those big goals.
Like, those negative thoughts become like self-sabotaging.
Self-sabotaging prophecies almost.
Yes.
But the good news is, on the flip side, if we can cultivate more positive beliefs about ourselves, more empowering beliefs, we're much more likely to actually take action and create that positive change. It all comes back to that choice. We have a choice in how we perceive ourselves, how we see the world.
Yeah, and this deep dive, I think it's really highlight that self-discovery isn't about reaching some, like, finish line.
It's a journey, right?
It's a journey. And it makes you think, okay, so what can we actually do to, I don't know, like, stay open to learning more about ourselves?
It's so easy to get stuck in our ways.
As we change, as we evolve.
Exactly. And suggests a few things. It talks about active reflection, being open to feedback from others, which can be tough sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But also, like, actively seeking out opportunities to understand yourself better.
Yeah.
Whether that's journaling, therapy, or even those personality tests, like MBTI or Enneagram. They can be really helpful tools for gaining a new perspective on your strengths and weaknesses.
It's true. It's almost like you're...
Right. It's like holding up a mirror to your inner self.
Yeah.
And just like examining those reflections without judgment, embracing all those complexities that make you you.
This has been like such a journey.
Yeah.
Unpacking all of the things I'm taking away from it. It's that we're not stuck.
No. We have the power to change, to grow.
With the self-concept that we have today?
Exactly. We can actively shape it, cultivate it, and, ultimately unlock a better, more authentic version of ourselves.
And that is a very empowering thought.
It is. It's exciting. It's exciting. And, one last thing I wanted to add.
Yeah.
Don't forget, self-discovery, it's not a solo mission. The people we surround ourselves with, their feedback, all of that contributes to shaping who we are.
That's so true.
So go out there, have those conversations, the real meaningful ones.
Right. Embrace those opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. Because the journey of self-discovery.
But we'll leave you with this. What small action will you take today to deepen that self-awareness?
Totally worth it.
It really is.
So much fun to be had.
It is. That's it for today's deep dive, everyone.
It flew by.